Arousingly boring is the name of the game. You don't need to deal damage. You don't need to hurt your enemy. You don't need to harass or kill buildings or pick off units. Just keep your stuff alive. Do the things that are standard. Do you know why they're good? I don't. I just do them. I hear someone say standard. I'm going to do standard. That's what innovation does. He plays standard. If an opportunity presents itself, sure. If not, no, absolutely not. Let's watch the arousingly boring play of innovation as he goes up against Lenok in our final two games today. Arousingly boring, lots of moving forward and just retreating to regroup to ensure maximum winitude. Damn, that's a bold command center. One thing that we're going to see, or that we have been seeing, that we will continue to see, is that innovation just seems to be able to attack and mysteriously have more stuff and just win. That's how you know if your arousingly boring playstyle is successful. You've been macroing very well. You've been keeping all your units alive. Your opponent's trying to do all this fancy corner cutting, get fewer units, get more upgrades, get extra bases. Innovation's just getting so much stuff at an even pace. Oh, it's so good. How many Marines? Dos Merinos. Why can he get away with this? Because he scouted and saw what was going on. No need to go into too much detail. Innovation's going to soon enough get a command centre. Gets his tech lab, gets his command center. We see Hellions getting produced two at a time. We see a little bit of stim pack coming up on up. We're going to note one thing from innovation. Watch these Hellions. They're going to be boring. He's going to check the expansion. Retreat! We know there's a third. Wait for more reinforcements. Poke where? The place that has the easiest time retreating. He can come back to here. Innovation, if you look at the minimap, here is his retreat path. To emphasize, the retreat path is the same thing as your reinforced path, by definition. One's going out of the base to the army, the other is the army going back to the base. Here it is. This line should not be breakable by Zerg. Imagine if your Hellions are here. The retreat path is something like this. Notice this down mark, and then we make the check up. We can't exactly retreat like this because here's where the Zerg rally point would be. So here is a bad place to retreat Hellions because we have to walk back past this way, and a Zerg can easily intercept by rallying units to mid. So that's where innovation attacks. Having some struggles, and you know what innovation in particular doesn't do? Interrupt his build. Gets 6, count them, 6 Hellions, and then he's back to normal. Not doing anything too out of the ordinary. After these Hellions have done their little micro special, he brings them back home to repair in a surprisingly, arousingly boring move. He builds a whole bunch of bunkers. He's seen a bunch of lings. Is he 100% sure that there's an all-in? Well, no. But he saw some lings. He sees a second geyser. Could be happening. It's a pretty high probability of it. And we see these Hellions from innovation getting rebuilt as a result. And what do you know, Joe? It's an all-in. In yet more arousingly boring maneuvers, innovation has completed the wall off up top. His defense is what is letting him stay alive. The SCVs don't just instantly pull. He waits for a while before pulling them. So they have a safe exit. Retreating back to the ramp, just hanging out. Lifting, hanging out. Just hanging out. Some stuff's dying. It's fine. He's rebuilding. He's hanging out. And okay, great. Now, what would you do if you had all sorts of Hellions? Like, I mean, I know you just try to keep yourself alive from the all-in. Which we do see Friend Innovation do. Watch this. This is just so dope. So good. By the way, setting himself up for late game, good normal stuffs. Getting up, starport, good normal stuffs. Has his Hellions. What would you do? Well, watch what Innovation do. He just goes back to rewalling off the front, sits on his ass, repairing. Okay. Yeah. Well, he's moving this command center out. Why? He's roughly going to have his Hellions ready. And off to the races they go. Hey. And there they shall remain. Okay, cool. How often, how many of you, I'm actually curious, would take these Hellions and try to, like, go kill off drones or try to, like, poach in? I mean, building a bunker and having some units, sending some units to the bunker, moving forward. Oh, what are these doing? They're going to kill off a creep tumor, and guess where they go next? They retreat back to where Innovation saw some lingy-lings coming. On the defense. A couple units moving here. And then they do a full loop around back to the front. Oh wait, no, there's lings. And hell, the Hellions were just gonna go here anyways. Just to help these little guys kill creep tumors. That's what these guys are here for. They're just here to kill creep tumors. Don't mind us. We're a retreat force. We're gonna retreat whenever we can. Gets the hell out of there. How easy would it be to fantasize about killing off all those drones? These guys basically never leave the reinforced path. Yeah. And then the darndest thing happens. Innovation begins to power up and do that classic Terran endless rally. And then he just wins. He just has too much stuff. Somehow. He's even 1-1. He's not like insanely ahead in upgrades or anything. And these splits are okay. They're not even the most amazing splits ever. And he gets a GG. We watch most of that from Innovation's point of view. I want to emphasize the way that looked from Innovation's point of view. Mostly dying. Getting a third. And then just winning. With macro. Right? Like that's... This is the win that looks like something went wrong. It looks like Leenox screwed up, forgot to inject. I don't know, did his Banelings not hit? No, it was not the greatest splitting from Innovation. He lost a pretty good amount of stuff, but you know, that's what happens when you macro well and you're not really losing a lot of stuff. Just little movement, like making sure his Hellions were always able to retreat and keep him alive, making sure the Hellions were always... with one exception, always on the reinforced path. The one time they didn't is when he thought he saw units move around the other side, move down to the other side, try to intercept him. Very, very, very arousingly boring. Very arousingly boring. I want to take another quick look back at this 7-minute mark so we can get a sense of what's going on in this main base. Because when people talk about macro, there is the basic of macro, which is always keep things in production. But there's the more subtle things of macro, such as these 3 barracks get constructed before these 2 engineering bays. As we look back here, we just see a rally inward, non-stop production, more barracks coming up. Non-stop production. Yeah, I think it was a win on, I will call it 3 0.5, 0.5 barracks. These 3 barracks have been building. These 2 have just finished, so they weren't even really able to make Marines. This is their very first set of Marines, and they only made 2 each. Innovations actually whiffed. These barracks really did not do too terribly much. And yet, Innovation just won. Okay, wow, 3 barracks were the bulk of this force for Innovation's ability to win this game. It wasn't a million billion barracks. It wasn't even 8, which is the typical amount that you would get on 3 bases. It wasn't even 5, the typical amount that you would have as you are establishing your 3rd. It was basically 3. 3 barracks, constantly producing, conserving the Marine and Marauder numbers, and letting the Hellions face the Zerglings. Hellions not getting sacrificed, Marines not getting sacrificed, and that adds up so huge. So you just 1A and win. Nice. Let's watch one last game. Final game of today. Overgrowth. I do like watching Maru quite a lot more than I like watching Innovation. But in terms of someone to mimic in order to maximize your win percentage, Innovation is it, man. No dilly-dallying with this Terran. Ruthlessly standard. Ruthlessly standard. Reaper, Reaper. On a map where you're probably going to have a hard time managing a lot of space, I do like the idea of going Reaper, Reaper, Hellions. Because you have just a little bit more space control, a little bit more scouting. I mean, we have a big old open space. It's nice to have those Reapers be able to control those towers. Sometimes we see players build on the low ground with that orbital command. I think there's nothing wrong with doing what we're seeing Innovation do. I think there's nothing wrong with the other one either. It's just a lot more scoutable. Oh, God. Oh, and I'm totally hard, too. Let me tell you. Yawning. Arousingly boring. So, what did Innovation do in his boring way? I'm sorry, I should have been talking about that, but I was just so bored. In the Innovation cam, we see that he's about to get these 2 Reapers. They're Hellion buddies. Notice how they retreat all the damn ass way back until they get buddies. Okay. And now it's okay to move out. But not too far out. Just gonna make sure, just gonna check. Then they move out, and you know what these boring ass uninspired nerds do? They dip into the front and then check. Uh-oh, no 3rd base. Dip into the front, they see speed Zerglings, and then they go, what the heck? Immediately, Innovation sends Hellions here. He sends these Hellions up to join them, and builds Hellions 7 and 8. You almost always see Innovation stop at 6 Hellions. But wait, there's no 3rd base. What gives? Not non-stop Hellion production and response, just 2 extra Hellions. And then Innovation's back to normal. Double engineering bay, double barracks. Of course, you're seeing at the top that there's Roach and Ventral Sacs and Glial Reconstitution and all that fun jazz. So then Innovation sees, uh-oh, a Roach. Little tiny twists in what he's doing. Just begins Marauder production. And gets his other geyser. Yeah, so now he has all his geysers.
Add-on complete.
And we see this factory is building this reactor because he wants to give it to this starport. Nothing's really changed. However, Innovation with his movement did see a Nidus network. And watch this. Just watch this efficiency of movement. The 2 Reapers patrol back and forth in the main. Building mass bunkers at the front. And just patrolling back and forth in the main.
Research complete.
And no doubt watching the crud out of his mini-map. The other thing I love is that Marine Mine Medevac with some Marauders is particularly good against Ling Baneling Mutalisk. But you know what we really love against Roaches? Tanks. So Innovation just gets tanks. You know, I shouldn't say it like that. It's not that Innovation just got tanks. Isn't that brilliant that he got tanks? But I want you to see that Innovation didn't preemptively get tanks. It didn't start tank production a long time ago. Everything that he had done beforehand was part of his typical build order. And his first round against the Marauders was a his first round response against the Roaches was a light answer. Marauder production out of a barracks. And now that he's seeing Roaches in larger numbers, he's getting a stronger response. Tanks. And then there's this weird Overlord drop Nidus network all-in thing. Calmly cancels the 2 extra barracks, tells his SCVs to kill the Nidus network, and wrecks this disturbingly badly. That was a double SCV pull that might look desperate, but that was a absolute shunting, man. That was just... Man, that's like when you hit your funny bone and it hurts for like a day. That's what Innovation just did to Leenock. Look at everything else. Just there's the tank production, sieging up, hanging out. Wasn't tanks in huge numbers. This was one tank that wound up being a huge winner. And now there's a second tank coming up. It's going to allow Innovation a continuously strong defense. He's going to lose 1 tank and 2 tank, kind of, and then the game. So if we have to recap Innovation, I think we would do it in 2 ways. First, his build orders and his general playstyle. Actually, no, here's how I want to say it. Here's how I want to say it. There's one big theme that leads to 2 outcomes. Big theme. I think I have a word for it. I think I do. Standard play with defensive aggression. Defensive aggression. He walks out, and if there's an opportunity to deal damage, he'll take it, but he's just pulling back, trying to keep units alive. He attacks with the goal of keeping his units alive, less so than trying to kill enemy units. He's defensively aggressive. And this leads to 2 things that we see from his standard play. First, if somebody all-ins him, he just waits a little bit, stays alive, and then continues to be more or less defensive with his units and just lets them not die. And then we've seen in all the games where Innovation won, he just kind of attacked and rolled over with more stuff. I think the last game that we saw from Leenock, not this game with Leenock, but the previous one on Habitation Station, is the perfect example of that. It looked like Innovation was getting battered down and then attacked once and done. Okay, cool, he won. So against all-ins, he's in good shape. And of course, it will let him... he's just setting himself up for the end game, where he will have a big army moving around looking for opportunities. Most importantly, he's trying to keep his units alive. A defensively aggressive thing. That seems good enough. Alright, let's take questions. Arousingly boring. Question me. Drodo says, Dan, what would you have recommended for Leenock to make better use of the Nidus network? Would it have helped to move the Overlords to the left while Nidusing elsewhere? No, I think that Nidusing a Terran on 2 bases is going to have a really low success rate, no matter what. Like a really, really damn low success rate. Okay, here's something that I need to point out. There's a fellow by the name of Do You Smoke losing his mind in chat. He's saying, what the fuck? Innovation held an all-in the game before this. He didn't just macro and win. I need to make sure you don't misunderstand this. I must make sure. Because that is the biggest misunderstanding that you can do, is to think that it was just, if you hold off an all-in, you're therefore done. You've won the game. Ha! Anytime you hold off. Well, actually, that wasn't an all-in. Leonok had plenty of drones back home. So, but even still, what was it? Was it Rotterdam who joked about the multi-phasic all-in, where there's someone who has such a deep experience in all-in, they know all the follow-up all-ins and that sort of stuff. With the style that Innovation has, there is a weird feeling that you will continue to see across the board, which is stuff seems to get tossed at him, sometimes all-in, sometimes pokes, sometimes attacks that have varying levels of success. But because he's been so conservative with his units, the first attack he does has a really, really, really high success rate. Hero, the player who was able to defeat Innovation, didn't swat Innovation's attacks aside like it was nothing. Hero barely had enough. Barely had enough. And that's what I want to emphasize, because, again, macro and win. Macro is a word that's sort of just roughly supposed to cover, he just has stuff. There's the mechanics of continuing to build, but then there is keeping the units alive, staying conservative with your units, and getting the production structures up before getting upgrades. Little things that Innovation's doing, like not overbuilding Hellions and that sort of thing, allows him to have that extremely high win percentage with his first attack that he makes in those games, which is just what I love so much. So much. So glad we got the chance to clarify that, because I think one of the most difficult things for a new player to understand is what it means to see someone win with more stuff. How did that happen? How did more stuff occur? Because when you're at this level of play, everyone's remembering to do their injects. Everyone's remembering to produce constantly. How is it that Innovation is able to so consistently have more stuff? Let's see. Caveman says, Dear Day 9, after seeing roaches initially in that last game, why didn't Innovation go straight for 3 to 5 tanks instead of getting the reactor for Starport and then going through, etc., etc.? Perfect question. This is a perfect... Oh my god, Do You Smoke? Welcome to the Day Nights. Instantly subbing. Boom! Boom! Love it. That's right. Let's... Oh yeah, the question about why not immediately make the tanks. Okay. Ooh, crap. Did I close my browser? Okay, cool. Why not immediately build the tanks? 3 reasons. First of all, you don't know if your enemy is committing to roaches. You've just seen a few roaches. Just a few roaches. So getting a couple of marauders is more than adequate for just a few roaches. Many players will build 7 roaches and then never build roaches ever again. They'll go right back into Ling Mutalisk. So the last thing you want to do is screw yourself over by going for tanks. So in that first circumstance, a couple marauders are going to be more than enough to deal with that. Small number of roaches. And second of all, we don't want to screw ourselves over with the rest of our build order if he's not going for all-in roaches. So, I had a third reason. Oh yeah, third reason is that is that the same as the second reason? I don't know. I tried to enumerate it, but I'm falling apart. Let me just fucking tell you. The Marauders are more than enough against a small number of roaches. Early, not going for the tanks allows us the flexibility to be good versus Baneling Mutalisk in the mid and late game, which is 90% what Zerg players do. And, of course, 3, we can still easily begin getting tanks if he is getting a lot of roaches, and this is perfect evidence for you that Innovation can wait for a long time for those tanks, and it's just right. They're still good. Last one, last question. H30 Foxtrots. It's day 9. Why did Innovation take his 2 medevacs to the Zerg base at the end of the game? Isn't that against the army conservation theme? Okay, cool. Great. I will use your language. The army conservation is a theme, not the rule that Innovation is going to follow. So when you watch him, we even saw there was another medevac attack that Innovation did that very much so all the stuff died and it was just trying to deal damage. And I emphasize the conservative thing because I think that people's brains are hardwired to want to be the aggressive, sexy attacker who's doing all the pain dropping, when really it's probably much more profitable for your long-term play to be more conservative. Also, there's another reason why Innovation is doing this sort of drop. If we come back here, this actually is in line with the idea of being conservative, as weird as it is. So I went through that whole burble about it is a theme of conservation, not a hard and fast rule. But then I still want to emphasize that here, Innovation is still staying very defensively focused. He feels like he is guaranteed to stay alive with these forces. He feels safe right now. This is another one of these attacks that might deal damage. It might deal damage, but Innovation is still just gonna try to keep these dudes alive. If it turns out there's queens and roaches here, he's gonna retreat this right away. The important thing is that Innovation knows he's safe here. To do kind of here's a really weird example. If you're a Zerg player and like pulling 2 Mutalisks to do harassment is totally safe. There's no way you can possibly lose by sending those 2 Mutalisks over. Those 2 Mutalisks can deal some damage. They don't have to deal the damage. They're flimsy if you try to force them in. This 2 medevac drop is about as conservative attack as Innovation can make right now. I don't know, the music example was weird. I don't know, I'm kind of tired. I've been up for a long time. Whatever, I'm done. I'm done with the show. I'm going to go do some net decking and figure out what deck I want to use for my Hearthstone show. Apologies for that bumpy last answer. I think the idea of you're already safe at home is the important one. Done! Hope you had fun. The show is over. Over.